Imagine arriving for another day's work at the hospital and being confronted with an unbelievable scene. A newborn baby, fragile and helpless, next to a loyal dog, both abandoned at the front door. How did this happen? What is the story behind this emotional and unexpected moment? The doctors, used to dealing with emergencies, could never have predicted the twist that was to come, and their reaction left everyone speechless. What would make someone leave a baby like that? And why did this dog remain by his side, as if protecting that little life? In this video, you'll discover all the details of this moving and surprising story, which touches the heart deeply and makes us reflect on the true meaning of compassion and the bond between humans and animals. Don't stop there, because the outcome of this story will change the way you see the world. On a cold Monday morning, something unexpected happened outside a busy hospital. Amid the rush of doctors and the routine of patients, an unusual scene brought everything to a halt. A newborn baby, wrapped in a thin blanket, lay silently on the floor. Next to him, a docile-looking but vigilant dog kept an eye out for any movement. Who had left that baby there? And why did a dog, normally frightened in crowded environments, seem so determined to protect it? The medical team approached cautiously, fearful of frightening the dog. But instead of reacting aggressively, he just looked at them, as if he was waiting for help. The professionals, used to dealing with emergencies, felt a lump in their throats at the scene. How could an animal show such loyalty? The baby was taken inside, and the doctors quickly assessed its state of health. The dog hesitantly remained outside, staring at the door, as if waiting for news. Was it just chance, or was there something much deeper to this relationship? Inside the hospital, the medical team was working fast to make sure the baby was safe. The little body, still fragile, was cold to the touch, but, to everyone's surprise, its vital signs were stable. The suspicion was clear. He hadn't been there long. But one question hung in the air: how had he managed to survive the early morning cold? The answer could lie outside, in the watchful eye of that dog that refused to leave the premises. Meanwhile, outside, the dog stood firm, ignoring the strangers passing by and any attempt to push him away. He seemed to have a mission, something that not even the doctors could understand. Intrigued, some of the staff tried to feed him, but he refused any offer. It was then that one of the hospital security guards had an idea. What if they let him in to see the baby? After all, his loyalty was evident, and perhaps he knew more than anyone else there. When the door finally opened, the unexpected happened. The dog walked straight up to the incubator where the baby lay, sat down next to it, and remained motionless, as if he was making sure that no one harmed him. What could explain this strong bond between the two? The presence of the dog inside the hospital triggered mixed reactions. Some doctors were surprised by his persistence, while others, more skeptical, believed it was just a coincidence. But there was something about the animal's behavior that defied any logical explanation. He hadn't just found the baby at the hospital's entrance. He had stayed by its side, protected it from the cold, and now refused to leave. What was driving him? How did he know the child needed him? The staff decided to investigate. While nurses cared for the baby, a veterinarian was called in to examine the dog. He had no collar, but he was well fed, with no signs of mistreatment or a life on the streets. This suggested that he had a home. But if that was the case, where was his family? And why was he there, at the exact moment the baby had been abandoned? The questions kept piling up with no clear answers. That's when one of the doctors had an idea. What if they checked the security cameras? Maybe the footage would reveal what had really happened. When security reviewed the recordings, what they saw was shocking. Around 3 in the morning, a hooded figure appeared on the screen. They were carrying a small bundle, the baby. Moving quickly, they looked around, ensuring no one was watching, and placed the child at the hospital's entrance. But then, something astonishing happened. As soon as the person walked away, a dog appeared in the frame. He wasn't with the person and didn't seem to belong to them, but he approached the baby, sniffed the blanket, and then laid down beside it, as if he had just taken responsibility for protecting the child. The scene sent chills down everyone's spine. There was no doubt. This dog hadn't left the baby alone for even a second. He had done something that many people might not have. He stayed, endured the cold, and ensured the child wasn't alone until help arrived. But this raised another question. Where had this dog come from? Had he just happened to be in the right place at the right time, or was there something deeper behind this connection? As the police were called to investigate the baby's abandonment, the doctors started growing fond of the dog. Some nurses began calling him Guardian, a name that perfectly matched his protective nature. And there was another curious detail. Whenever someone approached the baby's crib, Guardian remained alert, as if he were assessing whether that person was trustworthy. His instincts were incredible. Days passed, and while authorities worked to identify those responsible for abandoning the baby, a decision had to be made about the dog. He had no apparent owner, and no one had come looking for him. But something unexpected happened. Doctors, nurses, and even some patients became so attached to Guardian that they started discussing the possibility of adopting him as the hospital dog. He had already proven he had a huge heart and, in a way, seemed to belong there. And what about the baby? Fortunately, he was healthy and being well cared for by social workers. But the story wasn't over yet. Something suggested that Guardian still had an important role to play. After all, he had already shown that his mission wasn't just a coincidence, it was something much greater. Days passed, and while the baby continued receiving the necessary care at the hospital, Guardian remained there, loyal and watchful. His story had already spread throughout the hospital, and even the local media started taking an interest. It wasn't every day that people witnessed a dog acting with such loyalty and protective instinct. But one question still lingered. Where did he come from? The medical team tried to find a possible owner, sharing photos of the dog on social media and even in local newspapers. But surprisingly, no one came forward to claim him. Was he a stray? Or had he already found his true home there, at the hospital, beside the baby he had protected from the very beginning? Meanwhile, doctors and nurses had already decided Guardian wasn't just any dog. He was part of the hospital's story. But then, something unexpected happened. An elderly woman arrived at the hospital after seeing the story on TV. With teary eyes, she approached the dog, and as soon as Guardian saw her, his behavior changed completely. He wagged his tail excitedly and ran toward her, as if reuniting with someone he deeply loved. Overcome with emotion, the woman knelt down and hugged the dog tightly. Through tears, she revealed that his real name wasn't Guardian, but Max, and that he had gone missing weeks earlier. The hospital fell silent. How had Max, a dog who had a home, ended up beside that abandoned baby in the middle of the night? The woman explained that Max had always been special, known for his sensitivity and affection toward people. But one day, he simply left home and never returned. She had searched for him tirelessly, but with no success. What no one expected was that Max, for some unknown reason, had found an abandoned baby and decided to protect it. The revelation left everyone emotional. What initially seemed like a mere coincidence now felt like destiny. Max hadn't just saved the baby, he had found a new purpose far from his original home. And now, what would happen? Would he return with his owner? Or would he stay at the hospital, where everyone already considered him part of the team? Then, something even more surprising happened. The elderly woman, with a gentle smile, looked at the baby and then at Max. She knew he had found a greater mission, something even she couldn't stand in the way of. With a trembling voice, she made a decision that shocked everyone. She chose to leave Max at the hospital, where he could continue bringing joy and comfort to those in need.